This is Mark L. White for Health Hacks, and today I have a very special guest, my really good friend, Jeff Bast, also a very accomplished attorney. Your firm, Bast is a firm I would always want to stay away from, bankruptcy.
I appreciate why you might say that. We specialize in insolvency and commercial litigation. So if you are utilizing my firm, that means either you or your business owes somebody a bunch of money or they owe you. Somebody owes you a bunch of money. So either way, people generally are reluctant to want to hire us.
So people are probably saying, okay, this is Health Hacks. I'm not here to hear from an attorney. But what I've always admired about you, Jeff, is you're 50 years old, 51.
53.
Holy crap, 53?
Yeah, time flies.
You keep in great shape. I know you're a guy who is always busy. You have great work-life balance, but ever since I've known you, you've never touched meat.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't eaten red meat or pork for almost 30 years, 28 years. I stopped after I graduated law school, stopped eating meat.
First of all, why?
A combination of things. I would say the principal reason was moral and environmental. I've always been an animal lover. I've always been, an advocate for the environment, and I knew a lot about factory farming. Particularly at that time, it was so much more prevalent. So much more of our meat came from that source, and so I just decided that that was the best thing I could do to be a citizen of the globe.
It's funny. My daughter is a vegan. I've cut out meat completely. I eat a little bit of fish here and there. But what I find is when you go out to eat, I went to Dallas. They invited me to the #1 steakhouse in Dallas, and I ate asparagus that night. And everybody's with their big ribeye. How do you tell me some of your hacks on what you do when you're in a situation you're out with your associates?
Yeah. So first of all, I try not to make it a thing at dinners. I do a lot of business networking, have for many years, and I always try to make it not serve as the subject matter of the meal, and it always turns into it because people are so interested in it and fascinated and curious about it. There's a couple of things I do though. One is I find a way to let the people know in advance, because the worst thing for me is to show up to a fancy dinner where somebody's if they're taking me to the fanciest dinner in that city, that's because they want me to experience something, and I don't want them to first of all, I don't want them to feel bad that I'm a vegan and they took me to a steakhouse. But also I just want them to be able to, to have a positive, make it a positive experience. So I'll either have my assistant let them know in advance, or I'll let them know somehow in advance. But if I'm not able to do that, one thing I like to do is I take a look at the menu in advance. So I'm not studying it, or, if it's really a big, an important dinner, I may even call the restaurant in advance to see if they'll accommodate me. Most places will, and I would say that most good steakhouses will make a beautiful plate of vegetables for me. I mean, I've had dishes that come out and everybody at the table wants, a piece of what I have because it's gorgeous. And so any good chef that makes a good steak can also make a good, plate of vegetables. So I usually just say, have the chef, make me a plate of grilled veggies, and it's typically something that's, desirable for everybody.
It's like we look back at 100 years ago, we look at stuff that 100 years ago, it was normal, but 100 years later, we look back and we think those guys did this. And sometimes I think 100 years in the future, people are going to look back and say, I can't believe those people ate cows and pigs. And I think you see the rise of the impossible beyond,
right. There's all the meat substitutes.
So do you do Beyond Burgers?
I do, but I do it. First of all, I like them. They're delicious. I like, one thing as a vegan you don't do as often as maybe carnivores do is eat with your hands. So having a burger I like it because the experience of eating with my hands. And so I still have sandwiches, of course, with vegetables and or tofu or hummus, whatever it might be. But when they came out with Beyond, I like it. It's still it's a processed food, so I don't want to eat it on a daily basis. But it's convenient and it's delicious, and my kids like it. My kids are 2 out of 3 of my kids are vegan, and so I think I think it's great. I mean, I find that if it helps people reduce their meat consumption for whatever reason because they need a burger. I'm eating it because I enjoy it, not because I need a burger or because I'm looking for, a burger alternative. But if it helps people cut down on their meat consumption, I think it's fantastic.
I think as like these younger generations are more environmentally conscious, you're going to eventually hit a tipping point where, like veganism is in. I was talking to somebody, I forgot who it was, but I said, like, they don't eat beef or pork or any of that. I said, so you're vegan? They're like, I'm not vegan, but I follow a plant-based diet. I'm like, isn't that veganism? They said, no, because vegan is like a political term. It's like a badge. I'm a vegan versus like I follow a plant-based diet. Do you see that? Like vegan, like these stereotypes or
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that distinction between, making a statement that I am vegan versus I, eat plant-based. So I think they're saying that it doesn't define them. I guess I would probably say that as well. I eat plant-based, but I also largely try to be vegan in all aspects of my life. My belt is rubber, my shoes are Allbirds that are, plant-based. I try not to buy any animal products. My car, the seats are leather, fake leather. So I do try to adopt that. But I also apply a flexible standard in almost everything I do. I try not to be too rigid about anything. And I have a chocolate chip cookie exception to my veganism. So if you put the right chocolate chip cookie in front of me, even if it's not vegan, I'm going to make an exception.
it's got milk or
Right. I almost never eat milk, but I apply some flexibility. They call it the Paris exception. If you're in Paris, you're going to eat, you're going to, make an exception to whatever diet you have. But I do it less and less. I mean, if there's a vegan cookie and a non-vegan cookie, and I'm going to eat the vegan option. But if I'm in a place where it's, the right brownie or the right cookie, I may make an exception. And I also find that the more flexible you are, the more likely you are to stick with any habit, whether it's exercise or diet or, any other kind of routine. If you miss something or you cheat or you violate your, protocols, if you're super rigid, you're less likely to stick with it. I know people that either, maybe they meditate every day, and if they miss a couple of days, they forget, oh, I missed it. I'm going to stop. Or, same thing with diet.
Well, that actually happened to me. Like last year, I committed to 30 days. Well, first I said I'm going to commit to a week of pure vegan, stay away from all meat, all dairy. I was really good. And I started feeling the health benefits. Like I had more energy. I didn't get tired after lunch. Like when you go to the bathroom, it's not messy, like without getting it, it's like you just feel healthier. And I love that feeling. So I stayed strict. But about 2 months into it, I found myself in situations where I had to come off of it. I would go somewhere and there was like no choice. And then I started eating, and I would introduce things like, okay, I'm going to eat dairy once in a while. I'll eat fish once in a while.
Right.
It made my, I didn't feel as stuck.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to be flexible with ourselves with pretty much everything we do. I mean, the more rigid we are, the less likely we are to, just be happy in general.
That's what life's all about.
Yeah. You mentioned something before about, just the, vegan options. It's now becoming so much more prevalent. It used to be in the beginning when I was vegetarian, because I've become vegan or plant-based over time. I first gave up meat and pork, and then I gave up poultry and fish, years later. But I actually used to go to restaurants and I'd have a card from the Monterey Bay Aquarium that would recommend certain types of fish based on how they were fished and are they farmed or wild. And I'd be asking the waiter questions and they'd be looking at me like I'm from another planet and going, I don't know where the freaking, tilapia comes from or whatever. And so then finally I just gave up eating all of it. But nowadays it's so much more prevalent. The options are varied. Most places have those options, even if they're not a vegan or vegetarian restaurant. And now there are so many more vegan and vegetarian restaurant options available that are really, really terrific.
I ate at it's in South Beach, place on Second and Planta.
Atlanta. Yeah, excellent.
I mean, it was like freaking 5-star, all vegan, delicious.
Yeah, there are so many places that I love. In fact, we were dropping my daughter at school in Philadelphia this week, and I ate at a restaurant there. I'll give them a shout out. A place called Veg, high-end vegan. It's one of the best meals I've ever had. And my daughter's roommate was there. She's not a vegan, and she loved it. I don't think you have to be a vegan to enjoy a good vegan meal. Although people generally are resistant. Before I recommend it to friends, if we're going to go out, I'll say, hey, do you feel being a little adventurous and trying a vegan place? And some of them think, oh, well, where are we going to go to eat after? Because I'm still going to be hungry. But I think that's not the case anymore.
Now, you, again, 53 years old, great shape. How has like being vegan made you feel? Like, do you feel any difference from before? Did you notice weight loss, more energy, any benefits right away? Or
yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And people always ask me that when we're having this conversation. I should mention that you asked me before why I do it. And I mentioned, moral, environmental is one, but health is the other one. I come from a family, I'm one of 5 kids. And we have a tendency to be overweight in my family. Just about everybody is overweight in some ways. One of my siblings has had gastric bypass, another one could use it. And so I was always health conscious. Growing up, I was health conscious. I also came from a family, and I think this was more commonplace when you and I were kids, where you were taught to clean your plate. You had to finish your plate. And so to me, I think we were in large part trained to overeat. Whether you were full or not, you had to eat until, and I still have a tendency to do that. My wife has to remind me that, hey, I'm no longer one of 5 trying to fight for the food on the table. Because when I was a kid, if you didn't get it quick enough, you might not get it at all. But I've always, I've always taken a sort of a healthier approach to my eating and output and my intake. But eating plant-based, I feel great. Like you said, I mean, you mentioned the thing about bowel movements. Generally, I know we don't want to focus too much on that, but I generally in the morning, I sort of clean out, and it's fairly,
you don't have to use as much toilet paper.
Exactly. It's it tends to be clean on most days. I'm like that, and then I'm good for the day. I'm pretty regular with my diet, but I don't feel tired. I don't, I'm not hungry. I am one of those people who eats a lot, regularly. I snack a lot, but I tend to have snacks with me. I come to your office for a meeting, I have a bag, I have a bunch of snacks in there. I pull out nuts, I pull out fruit, I maybe have a protein bar, but
Prepared.
I think that's, I would say if you want to adopt that kind of diet, it just requires a little bit of planning. You and I both drive electric cars. It's the same thing. In the beginning, when we got our cars, it was harder to charge. You had to, if you were going somewhere, you had to really plan ahead. You had the app that would tell you where you might be able to charge. And it's just becoming easier and more commonplace when you call a hotel to ask if they have a charging station. It's not, they know what you're talking about. Life gets, gets easier.
Yeah, and I think you do see more adoption, more people going to veganism. And I was thinking when you were saying we were raised like in the 70s, that was like the era of Tang and processed food, McDonald's, and we did not have the knowledge to know that all that processed food was crap.
Yeah, remember we were eating veg. Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Pasta from a can, along with our vegetables from a can. Spinach came from, remember how gross spinach was? Like
our orange juice was Tang. It was the stuff from the astronauts, like crazy stuff.
And also, I would say vegetables, when we were kids, were basically boiled, like cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Maybe you had butter on it. Maybe if you were lucky, boiled with butter. And now imagine, look how we eat Brussels sprouts now, the way they're, grilled and sauteed
Caramelized,
and
yeah.
caramelized. So many of these vegetables have undergone, cauliflower used to be, gross when we were kids. Now it's, I love cauliflower and broccoli and the way things are sauteed and grilled. And to me, a plate of sauteed vegetables is, I love it. And by the way, people always ask me, I'm impressed that wasn't your first question, is where you get your protein. For all those vegetables we just named, broccoli, super high in protein, spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, these vegetables have tons of protein in them. And they're a great source of clean protein.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things is the micronutrients like B12, iron. Are you supplementing?
Yeah, I do. I do take B12, D, omegas. Omegas are hard to get for plant-based diet. I eat a lot of flaxseed, and I keep in my refrigerator a little jar in my office, a jar that has flax, chia, and hemp, and I just sprinkle that on most things that I eat. If I have a plate of fruit, I'll sprinkle some of those seeds on it, and I like it better that way. But I do take supplements. I do take vitamins on a regular basis.
A lot of protein shakes.
I do a fair amount of protein shakes. Yeah, I snack on, plant-based protein bars if I need a snack, but I don't like those to be my primary source of food. But it's a great way to, especially like after a workout, have a protein shake. I think it's a great way to add to supplement to your diet. And I like them. I mostly drink them because I like them.
And a lot of the stuff, like you just get your information just through all this knowledge you've gotten over the years. Like, how are you getting your health information?
Yeah, probably the same way you do. First of all, I listen to Health Hacks with Mark Gaines. I love this podcast. What's that? Did I say? I said Mark Gaines, Mark White. Sorry, Health Hacks with Mark White. I'm combining you with your business. I'm merging you guys as one. I love the podcast, and I'm honored to be on as a guest. I always even sometimes you see an episode and you think, oh, I'm not really interested in that topic, and then I listen to it and I'm like, oh, and I learned something that I wouldn't otherwise learn. But I read, I listen to podcasts, I follow a few different Rich Roll's a great vegan resource. So I learned from a variety of sources.
Now, other things like I'd like to get in with you is, like being an attorney, you're working on cases, you have a wonderful family, but how do you balance the two? And I know we've always talked about like the key to life is just being happy and well-rounded and not merging too much with the business, the identity.
Yeah. I always find that, balance is maybe a misnomer, because it's never quite balanced. Maybe it shouldn't be 50-50. If you have 24 hours, that means 12 of them are working and 12 for your family. And what about sleep and all the other things? So I think it's finding the right, I guess balance, for the lack of a better word, is to say homeostasis, but the balance that works for you. So it's not going to be 50-50, but for me, one of the most important hacks is one, I've learned to adopt a morning routine. So I stretch I wake up early.
What time do you wake up?
I'm usually up around 6:15, 6. It depends. If it's a workout day or a day off, then, I may sleep in a little bit later, but I'm neurotic about my sleep. I mandate at least 7 hours. So I usually will wake up based on, I'll set my my alarm, depending on what time I'm getting in bed. And so I'm always trying to get at least 7. I target 8.
Do you track your sleep using like a wearable?
I wear a Garmin that tracks it, but I almost never look at it. I just know that if I'm best with sleep, and I value sleep, and if you ask any of my kids or my wife, I'm always on everybody's case about sleep, because I know nothing else really matters without sleep. You can have a great diet or a great workout routine. If you don't get enough sleep, you're basically minimizing the benefits of everything else you do. So I get a good night's sleep. I wake up earlier so I can stretch. I had back problems about 12 years ago, and they were recommending surgery, and I didn't want to do surgery. So I did one round of epidural injections, and I started working out with a trainer, and I've been with that same trainer ever since.
Work out every 3 days a week.
3 days a week,
Okay.
and then I swim two other days a week. So I guess exercise 5 days a week. And then I schedule. I make these things part of my schedule. And my whole office knows on Wednesday at 6 o'clock I'm in the water swimming. So
I hope they're not calling you at 6 in the morning anyway.
no, 6 p.m. This is a
Okay.
Wednesday afternoon, 6 p.m., which I've been on conference calls, literally standing at the water's edge. We swim in the bay on Wednesdays in the Venetian Islands in Miami Beach. And I'll be on a conference call on my friend's backyard, in my bathing suit, just trying to end this call so I can jump in the water.
You swim far, like a mile.
Yeah, I'm part of a group. I'll give a little shout out to the Dolphins and Rainbows Swim Club. I didn't name it. Swim Club in Miami Beach. We do open water swimming. Every Sunday we do about 2 miles. And then there's different groups, subgroups that swim during the week. And I'm part of another subgroup that we swim it's about a mile and a half. We do a lap around one of the islands in Miami Beach on the Venetian Islands on Wednesdays. But it's a lot of fun. It's really, if anyone's interested in joining, give me a buzz and I'll send you the details. But it's a great group, and it's a group that's focused on their health and also focused on the water. And we see sea life all the time. I saw a stingray at the bottom of the bay last night, just hanging out, and it's a great way to be outdoors and get exercise. And I also think one of the keys to health is community, being part of a community. And this was a struggle for all of us during the pandemic, where we weren't able to interact with each other on a regular basis. But we're social creatures, and being part of a community is so important. It's not, and those in my office have heard me say this dozens of times, that a community is not just your neighborhood. It's any group of people that you interact with. So my swim club, that's my community. My entrepreneurs forum is a community. The people I work with, they're my community. And so interacting and socializing with those people is such an important part of our health. And we do better as humans when we work together.
Yeah.
My opinion.
How about like mindset? Like, I know for me, especially like during the pandemic, you get caught up in these like news rabbit holes, and like the election last year. And what I've done is I try to cut out news consumption, or cut out like consuming anything I have no control over.
Yeah. I think that's it's really an unfortunate product of our times and the digital age, electronics. Like I don't check emails before I'm getting into bed. I leave my phone in my bathroom. I don't have the phone by my bed. When I go to sleep, I don't start checking emails when I wake up until I finish my whole stretching and meditation and breathing, whatever it is I'm doing on that particular day.
You do that Wim Hof breathing.
Yeah, I do the Wim Hof breathing. I used to do it every day, and then it started becoming like a chore for me. I wasn't enjoying it as much. I was beating myself up if I didn't get 3-minute breath hold. And so I took a break from that. Now I do it twice a week on my days off when I'm not exercising, and I do it without tracking my time. So I'm trying to not be competitive about it. And I'm only competitive with myself. I wasn't really competing with anyone, but I would get mad if myself if I couldn't make a certain time. And yeah, I love that too. Feels great.
When you look at your colleagues, the guys in the legal community in the early 50s, do you say, holy shit, how's this guy still alive? Or
what's funny is with I've had this experience many times where I may be dealing with someone, either a client who may be someone I know for a long time, and they come to my office, or maybe it's another lawyer or whatever. And then when people in my office find out that they're the same age as me, they're just shocked, because they might look 20 years older. And I do think that's a product of maintenance. It's and I always find it funny how people will get an oil change for their car and wash their car
Yeah.
and take care of their vehicle that maybe they
Yeah.
leased for 3 years or they
Clean
bought
you
it,
know, clean it
but
every
they
day.
won't take care of their own body. I mean, this is the one, this is the vehicle we have to get through this world. And so why not take care of it?
Yeah,
To me, it's such a fundamental premise. I'm always surprised that people don't. And I know it's hard if you haven't started. If you're already overweight, it's harder to be, to maintain your health. And, as we age, it's harder it's harder just to maintain things. We have to work harder to get stronger and do things. But to me, in the same way I've taken this approach throughout the pandemic with COVID, I work so hard so that I can enjoy my swim on Sunday and so that I can, exercise and get out, because that's what I love to do. And so it's like the same reason I don't want to get the flu. I don't want to get COVID. I don't want to get really anything. I don't like to have a sniffle.
Right.
Because
Take care of
I want to feel good all the time. We deserve to feel good. And if I'm willing to put in a little work and make small sacrifices for that. And for the same reason with the chocolate chip cookie, when I cheat, I have zero guilt. I have zero guilt because I work hard 99% of the time. So when I have that 1% break, it's worth it.
Yeah, you always have to, like, I guess we get our identities tied up in what we do. I'm a businessman, I'm an attorney. And I think sometimes it's like, just, we're human and we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And just kind of have that breakaway from being tied up in the identity. But ultimately, if you think about our life, the whole platform is based on health. You don't get health right, nothing else works.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's if you don't feel good, how are you going to be able to do anything? It's like any problem you have. If you have a health issue or a legal issue, you're going to be focused on that issue until that issue's cleared up. God forbid you have a disease or a condition or something, or a lawsuit. That is going to be your focus until it's resolved. And so if you're focusing on that, you're not focusing on something else. And same thing we were talking about with sleep. I can function if I don't get enough sleep, but I know I'm so much better with the sleep. So why start my day off with a handicap, with the deficiency?
You know what I really got out of this, and I'm so happy we spent this time, because I've known you for over a decade, but I've learned a lot, is how structured you've made this, like the morning routine, the planning with the food, how you've developed this as part of the fabric of your life.
Yeah. Yes and no, but I don't want to say that I'm that structured, because I'm really not that structured, but I've just, from my perspective, I've prioritized the things that are important to me. So if you want to eat healthy or you want to exercise regularly, you just make it a priority. You put it on your schedule. The health hacks about calling ahead to the restaurant, I very rarely do that, but if it's something that's important, I'll do it. So I don't think you need to be that structured, but I do think people should, I don't want to sound preachy, but to prioritize their own health. I mean, why should that not be the first thing, the top priority for you for anything? And I think I'm a better business owner and better parent and better leader and better lawyer and better friend because I'm healthy. It's like the airline, comment, put the mask on yourself.
If you take care of yourself first,
Right.
you can be there and take care of the others. And I get it.
Yeah. And especially, I think, you and I are both parents. We both have 3 kids. I think being a parent made me so much more aware of that than I ever had been in my life, the importance of maintenance and being healthy, because I don't want to be, I want to be there for my kids for a long time and their kids.
And I was just thinking back, like, me and my wife, we prioritize health, make sure the kids are eating healthy, making sure that they exercise. And, like, I look at them now, they all are in great shape and healthy, knock on wood. But I look at other kids coming over 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight. And I'm like, how can we spread the word of, like, how do we make this generational? Well,
I think you and Liliana are a great example of, it's not, the example you set or the lesson you taught to your kids was by setting an example. It's because you lead a healthy lifestyle. They saw that. It was part of your routine. You go for runs regularly. Liliana's working out. You both are, you make fitness a priority. So the best way we parent is by modeling the behavior that we want our kids to adopt. So I always wanted my kids to see that I eat healthy, I take care of myself, I exercise regularly. I exercise in my house, which is a luxury that I have, that, I had a trainer that would come to my house and I have, some basic equipment there. But I love that my kids see that. And on the weekends, sometimes they would work out with us, and they have, my son is way healthier than I am now. He's, working out and prioritizing health really more so than anything. And well, my daughter was the first one to become vegan. He slowly followed them.
I saw a picture of your son diving the other day. Kid is ripped.
Yeah, he's ripped. It's an inspiration to us all. But yeah, I mean, you guys modeled the behavior, and you're right. It's obesity and diet are our own pandemic, in this country. And I think it starts, at home. And the other thing is, if you're never going to eat better than at home. So, and hopefully kids eat most of their meals at home. So to me, it's like, if we eat healthy at home, then I shouldn't care about what my kids eat when they're out and when they're, with their friends or out to a restaurant. And so but it all starts with modeling that behavior.
Well, I think this is great. I really appreciate the time. Appreciate you coming over. Everything. You're a good buddy. Love you, man. Thanks.
I love you too, man. And thanks for having me. This is great fun.
Okay. Thank you.